And that means that we have to leave some things behind to go where God wants us to go, right? So, with that in mind, knowing where Moses was coming from, all right? I want to talk about, because Moses was, he had to reset the pace for his life. This is what Moses, he had gotten on a treadmill. And now what Jethro is telling him is, you've got to reset the pace. If we're going to go into the promised land, you can't sit here and do this every day. There are things, Moses, that only you can do. Lots of people can do this. Let the lots of people do this, and you do what only you can do. And you know, girls, the older we get in life and the more that God entrusts us with, we'll talk about opportunities in a few other weeks, the more opportunities God gives you. You've got to get good at looking at the big picture of your life and going, what are the things that only I can do? What are the things that other people can help me do? What are the things that I really shouldn't be doing? You have to have these moments and space in your life to ask yourself these questions, because it's going to change from year to year and from season to season. It's going to change with the relationships in your life, because your relationships are legitimate pace setters, but they affect you in different ways. So I want to talk about this, pace setters. How are relationships pace setters? Your first blank here says this: your inner circle is your pace setter. What do I mean by your inner circle? All right, if you want to do this for your own, I meant to make a graphic, but I didn't. But imagine that you have just a set of several concentric circles, right? And in that very small circle in the middle, this is your inner circle. Now, our circle is our relation. Think of your relational circle. This is very simple, but let's just think of it this way for convenience sake. Relationships you invest in daily, relationships you invest in weekly, monthly, annually. Right? Weekly, monthly. So daily, weekly, monthly, annually. This is a strategy for thinking about your relationships. We don't tend to think of our relationships in terms that are this organizational, because relationships aren't to be organized and, hierarchied. But the reality is, let me just help you out. If somebody from your yearly investment is constantly trying to butt into your daily investment, guess what you're going to lose? The people that you ought to be daily investing in. Because here's the thing, you hear people say, oh, I'll make time for that. I mean, the only way, you can't actually create time. Time is time. It is what it is. There's only one person who can create time, not you, it's God. He created it, he can move it, he can do whatever. He can multiply time. He can make you more effective in a short time than you would have been in a longer period of time when you put him first. But can you actually go and create time? You can't. You have 24 hours in a day. The president has 24 hours in a day. Mother Teresa had 24 hours in a day. All of us, time is the great leveler. We all have a certain amount of time, and we all spend it, or we can invest it. You get what I'm saying? You can spend, or you can invest. What's the difference between spending and investing? Spending is, you got it, you trade it for a commodity, it's done. Investing, you have it, you put it in a place, and it brings return to you. So, make sure that you're investing where you need to invest, and you're spending where you need to spend. Okay, so this is a very touchy situation. So, this is a different way to think of relationships. Are y'all with me? Am I sounding weird to you? Okay, you're with me. Okay, good. All right, so let me just tell you legitimate pace setters, okay? First of all, blank number one here, family. Your family is a pace setter for your life. This should be your highest level of investment. Your children, your spouse, your parents, your in-laws, your family. This is your inner circle. Well, I don't get along with those people. I'm sorry. They're still your inner circle. God doesn't ask you to honor your parents unless you don't like them. Okay, we can all look at our parents and find things we don't like. Now, I know that this is really, everybody's life is different. This is not legalism. I'm trying to help you understand some things about relationships. Your children, my children, they are pace setters in my life. And they have a legitimate claim to that space. They have a right to impact what I do with my time. They have the right to say, cancel this, do that. I have the right. I have a legitimate claim to be a pace setter in my husband's life. I actually have, because of our covenant bond in marriage, have the right to say to him, it hurts me when you do this. I wish that you would not put this on this night and that you would stay home and have dinner with us instead. I actually have a right to say that to him. You know what? He has a right to say that to me. I know you want to do this project, but right now I need you to help me. I know you want to do this, but it's not good for our children right now. I feel like it's going to cause. He actually has a legitimate claim to say those things to me. Now, I want to frame this in a positive way. We have to let people who have legitimate claims have space to have those legitimate claims. We cannot get so busy that when people that have legitimate claim to be pace setters in our lives try to make that claim in a healthy way, we'll talk about how those things can turn into Sabbath stealers in just a few minutes, that we don't have the margin or the space or the flexibility to allow them to make that claim in a legitimate way. Okay, let me go on. Your parents have the right to be a pace setter in your life. We have a very, very disconnected and individualistic society in a lot of ways. You know, we grow up, we leave the nest, and we leave our parents behind. We see them on holidays. And I'm not condemning anybody. Please understand my heart. I just really feel that that's very far off the mark from God's best. And maybe we look at our parents as our, like, they were our investment bankers, and now we're, the business is running good. We should never have that. I want to say that my parents, and my mother-in-law too, who's sitting here, they modeled this beautifully in their own lives, honoring your parents. Just because your parents no longer can tell you what to do doesn't mean that they don't have a place of honor in your life. Now, the difficult way, I'm going to speak to younger generation here, the difficult thing about honoring your parents is learning and negotiating that gap where they don't have authority over you, but they still should have influence. Whereas there is a very fine line there. I could go on for 3 weeks just teaching that line. Don't have that opportunity today. But I just want to say that, your parents really do they have a right, a legitimate claim to be a pace setter in your life. And I just want to encourage you, I really feel, called to say that. My parents were wonderful about that. My parents are pace setters in my life. They have a legitimate claim to want to talk to me a certain number of times a week, to want me to come in and see them a certain number of times a year, to want to see videos of my kids, they have a legitimate claim to want intimacy with me. It's a legitimate claim. And I don't want to become so busy, as I've done in the past, that I don't leave room for that legitimate claim. Part of being mature and growing up is understanding who deserves who has a legitimate claim and who doesn't. So let me tell you some of the things about modern life that I think are sucking the life out of that legitimate claim and leaving it, leaving less time for it. I think that technology and social media, we spend more time Instagramming our friends than we spend on our parents. We usually hear that said about our kids, but what about your parents that raised you and paid for your school and bought you, helped you, set your way, gave you a roof over your head? When it gets hard, most of us when we're making that transition from child to adult, and your parents they should be letting you cross the line where they're not an authority, but they're an influence. And that gray area is where most of us mess it up, but on both sides, parents and kids. I'm in a unique situation right now. I'm parenting a teen. I'm parenting a 10-year-old. I've got parents alive on each side. I'm in the middle there, and I understand that one of the hardest challenge for my teenage daughter right now is I'm making the bridge. I'm still an authority in her life, but we're on this bridge where it's authority, but not authoritarian. And I am bridging the gap from authority to influence. And my parents did that well with me. I want to do that well with her. And so I think, what are the things that distract us from giving that inner circle the right amount of focus? The other thing too, close friends. Close friends, I would say, are like a weekly, monthly investment. Everybody's life looks different. Kind of does depend on what season of life your parents are in and your children are in. Family comes first, right? And that looks different for everybody. Some people have massive families. Some people have smaller families. We can't judge people and go, they're too much into their family. Because I don't know, if they have 50 people in their family, if they've got a divorced parents, and they've got 2 moms, 2 dads, 4 pairs of grandparents, and 15 nieces and nephews. I can't say that, I don't know how much effort that takes. We got to give people grace. And so your inner circle comes first, and then your friendship circle has to fall into place around that as it can. So, for some of us, we don't have much family, so our friends are our family. But maybe some of our friends have lots of family, and we're their friends. Okay, healthy friendships. You need to have a realistic assessment of where you can fit into this picture in your friends' lives. Okay? Your friends might be your family, and maybe you don't have a lot of family around you, but for some of them, they might have lots of family around them, and they have to put a lot of time because those relationships have a legitimate claim to be pace setters in their lives. It doesn't mean that we don't have time for friends. We do have time for friends. We have to make time for friends. But again, even that, we don't make time for all friends the same. I remember when I was in high school, there was a teacher, and he had started this Bible study. He was the art teacher. So the art teacher's always cool in high school. They're the more like liberal, not rules teachers, So he was the art teacher, and he had this Bible study at his house, and we would have like 50 people go over there on a Friday night. It was awesome. It was a real pivotal moment in my relationship with God, just a great growing moment. But within that group of people, he had about 4 or 5 students that he really, really clicked with. It's almost like his mentoring group, and they would go over there when it wasn't Bible study time, and if he went out to, he had this camp, and sometimes they would all like get together and go out there and do like a little mini retreat, after Bible study on Friday. And it wasn't a well-known thing. I just happened to be friends with one of the girls that was in this group of people. Her and her brother were in this group of people, and